Welcome back on our continued coverage here on CNN News 18. I'm coming to you live from the International Media Center on the second floor in the roof area. It's a lovely weather, overcast skies makes it perfect for us to get you the Bharat Mandapam right behind us. That's going to be the venue in a short while from now, just about under an hour. You would have not just the top leaders, ministers, delegations all arriving for the main session, the combined closed-door session, and after which it will be the open session and then the closed-door sessions right through the day at the G20 Leadership Summit. It's all going to build up to what are the achievables. Will there be the spirit of consensus over conflict and over interpersonal or international rivalries? The world seems to be deeply divided on various geostrategic concerns, but economically, can we all put human-centric growth and human-centric development at the center of it rather than looking at individual interests and GDPs? Now, this is the question, and this is the pitch India has actually made, saying let's look at one earth, one family, one future. You'd always have fights in a family, but you always work towards the betterment of the family as a whole. Can we do that? The pitch for the Africa Union, 55 plus nations to become a permanent part of the G20, just like the European Union, taking the overall strength to about 90 nations. Can we do that? Is that going to be achievable? That's another big question that needs to be answered by these nations when they come together. German Chancellor has touched down. Mohammed bin Salman should be touching down. He's actually on a state visit, so he will stay on beyond the 10th into the 11th of September for the G20 because he's a state guest in India. There is the President's Rashtrapati's dinner later this evening, and there will be a cultural extravaganza, and this beautiful structure right behind me, designed in the form of a conch with all the symbolisms of Bharat's culture and civilization, will look totally different. Tech, culture, civilization, all coming together to show Bharat as it is, steeped in its roots, very deep of civilizational ethos and cultural ethos, but then rising towards technology, towards knowledge, towards what its name actually symbolizes, riding towards sunlight, illumination, and towards knowledge. Pallavi Ghosh is with us at this International Media Center. Pallavi, so have you found yourself a cozy corner, or are you upping your step count on the perimeter? Because this is 10,000 square meters of area, perhaps one of the largest media centers that I've ever seen.
And I'm just a floor below you, Anand, so I'm just going to catch up with you in a short while from now. But you get a sense of the International Media Center. Just about everybody is over here. So it's a packed house, really, because there's a lot of anticipation on what are going to be the talks which are going to take place through the day today. And you rightly pointed out, and this is what we have been picking up by way of our government sources consistently. Trade and economic trade and economic policies and ties are going to be the focus. It's not an easy time to have this G20 summit, and it's a huge challenge as far as India is concerned, but it does want to leave behind a legacy as it hands over the presidency to Brazil. What is it, that legacy that it wants to leave behind? Well, Vasudev Kutumbakam and Vishwamitra. That is possible in this competitive world to actually be friends of each other, and we also need to help each other. India has made the very strong pitch that protectionism by each country is understandable. We would, of course, protect our own interest, Atmanirbharta, self-reliance. That's going to be the crux of India's economic policies, but at the same time we open our doors to foreign investment. I mean, for example, the Apple manufacturing company coming up first over here in India gives a lot of scope for skill development, gives us a lot of scope for employment. So what are particularly the points which I have been picking up, and we have been reporting this? Cryptocurrency on the agenda. That's a huge achievement, I would say, by the Indian government to put it on the agenda. There was a strong resistance which came in from many countries. India managed to convince them. As Amitabh Kant, who's our Sherpa, pointed out yesterday, the Delhi declaration is ready. We just have to go and put it on the table, and I think that's where the negotiations, the power and the charisma of the Prime Minister is going to be put to test, and they are very gung-ho as far as the Indian circle is concerned. That's one. Second is, of course, economic protectionism, economic offenders. That's something which India has made a key point about. We want to get a list of our economic offenders, but we are chained in by the fact that the countries have their own policies, as a result of which we are not able to bring them to task. That's also going to be a focus of the Indian government, and the Prime Minister is going to make a strong pitch for that.
Yes, but more important, I'm just going to check if we have Zaka Jacob also back with us and who else with us on the broadcast. But Siddhant is with us. Siddhant, there are a lot of journalists present here. There are also separate studios and areas for the international journalists, the crew that's come in here. What is their focus? Have you been able to interact with any of the foreign journalists? For them, what is their take? Each nation has its own perspective. So Bharat has its own perspective and we're going to bring that perspective. But the world is also descending into the national capital here. And the journalistic fraternity, what are they focusing on?
Anand, there is a standard which has been set by all these multilateral for these multilateral events, that event will be considered successful if there is a joint declaration, if there is a joint statement, and that is perhaps what Bharat is working on right now. And as Pallavi was saying, that a lot now relies on Prime Minister's charisma and might to build consensus, because since all these leaders have already arrived in the national capital, so there must be back channel going on. And with regard to the joint declaration, as far as Sherpa track is concerned, Anand, so Para 3 and Para 4, to which Russia and China has been raising objection to. So we could see a fresh language, or perhaps language can be reworked, something of that sort can be done. Talking about the finance track, Anand, there were two objections which were raised in the finance track, and that is also very important. The China is hesitant about a climate resilience package that US and India want with the G20 member. The second is G20 members call for a recommendation on food insecurity, but Russia has hesitant. So these are the two objections which have been raised by Russia and China in the finance track. But as Pallavi said, and perhaps the journalists here are also interested in knowing that what is going to be the fate of India's G20 presidency. But Anand, one thing is for sure, that India is a voice of Global South. When China says that China is a leader of Global South, India is a voice of Global South, and that India has proven. The kind of agenda, other than these 4 points which I have highlighted, is very sustainable, balanced, developmental, and perhaps the agenda is only to push to accelerate the growth of the countries from the Global South. So Anand, from very beginning, these countries from the West were trying to trap India by saying that Russia-Ukraine war is impacting the food prices, impacting is causing inflation. But India has maintained the position by saying that this presidency is dedicated to the concerns of Global South. It is not about the two blocks, West and Russia. It is about two blocks, Global North and Global South. So that has been India's constant position, and perhaps that is perhaps the success of India, to get everybody on one table when it comes to the concerns of Global South. And also, Anand, most important, the inclusion of African Union. I guess that is a landmark achievement for India, and the way India has convinced all other nations, Anand, for their inclusion. We could see perhaps maybe today or tomorrow when the joint statement will come, that mostly African Union is going to, in all likelihood, African Union is going to get inducted, and it would be interesting to see whether the name gets changed to G21 or it will remain G20. Back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, whether or not the Africa Union will actually become a permanent part in this session, or will it be a resolution that they will be made permanent members in the next session under the chair of Brazil, we'll have to wait and watch, but that will be a significant step forward. Ladies and gentlemen, plenty of positives to talk about, plenty of opportunities. Whilst there are problems, it's about how you would approach it. Now, will that be from a position of consensus, collaboration, cooperation, and working towards, and with this whole aspect of putting humanity at the forefront? We'll have to wait and watch. That's the hope. We're going to take a very, very short break here on the broadcast. Stay with us.